Hey, hello everybody. Yeah, it is. We're halfway through June here, and I need the sun. It seems like Vancouver, for that matter, is seems to be raining every day, which is, I guess where we live is normal, but not for this time of year. And I'm looking to get that vitamin D. Hopefully, everybody is on the same page, wanting some sunshine. It is Anthony Stewart. This is Food for Thought. And the object of this channel is to ask questions and challenge everything they've ever said. And, we're going to dive deep into some things, and sometimes, hopefully, I can shed a little inspiration throughout my anecdotal N of one experience and experiment on myself through this crazy world, life, and all the distractions and influences, so to speak. So today I wanted to talk about why. From personal experience, I can fully explain mine. I was feeling very old about 3.5 years ago. I'm unable to move properly, feeling a little overweight. Well, was a little bit overweight. I was about 225 pounds in a 5'6.5", 5'7" frame. It's arguable to say borderline obese. And my perceptions and my thoughts on health were significantly different than they are now. And that question pops up all the time. And like we've had, I'm sure everybody at one point or another has had that conversation with a child that has been why, why, why. And being an adult, it gets frustrating because it's just, but that thirst for curiosity is quite fascinating. And a big belief of mine is we look to nature. If we look to nature more often, we might find answers right out in front of us. And children are a great example of that. Little experiment here, a thought experiment. When and everybody's got the right, and they do the best they can with parenting. And I mean, of course, I'm not a parent, so this might be throwing some shots over the bow, which is I'm not meant to be disrespectful or questioning anybody's ability to parent their child. But this is kind of, I've thought about this, I've talked about this with some friends, and it's quite fascinating. And when does a children's instinctive, intuitive way of surviving become the parent's will? Whether it's right or wrong, do we lose an ability to, just from a health and wellness perspective, sense nutrients? Do we lose the ability to be eating when we want to or need to? And when does it take over from somebody else's, I don't mean to, it's no disrespect, but imposed will? Now, children ask questions all the time. Why? Because they're curious and they want to know. And, sometimes as adults we don't have the answers, which is probably frustrating to itself. But when we're looking at all this distraction going on, I think we fail to, and this is completely my opinion. Like I said, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist. I am just a curious person that has found some success in my own journey. And that why question is fantastically complex yet very simple. And I think what we've done with all the distraction, social media, propaganda, whichever way you feel about this, I think we've lost the ability to, in a sense, find out truth for ourselves. And I think personally, the best way to do that is to ask the questions. And if your answer is not black and white, then keep digging. And I would encourage that. You keep digging and keep finding out for yourself. And if you're not satisfied with an answer, find out until you are. And, that's kind of my personal thought process now is, why? Why am I feeling so good? Why do I feel not so good sometimes? Why is my skin feel better on some days? Why does my weight fluctuate? What's blood sugar control? What's metabolism? And it's so easy just to ask one person, and then that is what it is. But you can go really, really deep into this, and I don't think we go deep enough into our own selves. And this stems from the whole mind, body, soul. It's all connected. And optimal health and optimal mindfulness and optimal life is a very complex, intertwined circle of things. And I'm coming from a very foundational, nutritional standpoint. And when I started asking these questions, why am I getting older? Why can't I move my shoulder? Well, I should work out. So I started working out, but I wasn't losing weight. Why wasn't I losing weight? Well, must be something I'm eating. And then looking into nutrition, and then learning about different people's opinions and different books, and the quest began. And then I started seeing results, and I started feeling better, and I started lowering my pain threshold, upping my pain threshold, which was fascinating. And why was this happening? And this sparked an internal thing to figure out some stuff for myself. Now, I'm not here to force you into anything. I'm just here to say, hey, let's ask questions, and I'll ask them, you can ask them, and we'll find out answers maybe. And if not, so be it. And it comes down to that adage, the more I learn, the less I know. And I'm starting to really figure that out. It's very frustrating some days because, I would like to think of myself as somewhat of a scholar. And, quite often the answer leads to more questions, and it gets really frustrating. And I change my mind all the time. And one thing and a few things that are foundational, I believe we have to get back to basics. And what are the basics? Why do we have to get back to basics? Because I believe we've found a way to stop listening to our natural instinctive cues, whether it's hormonally, from an energy standpoint, from a building block protein standpoint. And I think we just got to ask those questions where, how did we even get here without all this technology? And I think there's a lot of truth and a lot of wisdom found in the past. And, that's coming back to, when I was in school, I could give a shit about history. And now I'm starting to realize that history has so much to offer. And I think the time that we're in, this part of existence, is extremely fascinating on how we've come as a species and as how we've come to be who we are. And I think, there's a lot of weight in thinking ancestrally, and that doesn't mean giving up completely on the technologies at hand and what we have to offer. I think it's finding the balance between the two. And when you start realizing that there is a lot of opinions, there's a lot of stuff out there, and even with this whole disaster over the last few years, the science. Well, we got to look at what science is, and when you look at science from a logical standpoint, science is it's questioning, it's proving, and until you've proven it, you can still keep asking questions. And the more from my personal experiences, the more I dive deeper into the science of fill in the blank, it leads to more questions, and that's great. I think in my personal opinion. And when you're looking at a diet and you're looking at science and nutrition, well, what is nutrition? Nutrients. It's what your body uses to live. And now that whole snowball effect begins. Now, what do we need? What are we capable of dealing with? What is optimal? What's bad for you? what may or may not be what's okay. And I think we've completely stopped taking responsibility for ourselves, and we put our faith into some things that might not be what they are. And that is the whole reason why I'm doing this. And I want to inspire people to think for themselves, for one, ask the questions that they need to ask. And, when you're starting an intervention or a protocol of any kind, there's a chance it won't work. There's a chance that it might be supremely optimal for you. But you got to find out why you're doing it. And I want to break through that barrier from my opinion and my thoughts, and try and shed some light on potential answers. And there's certain things and certain beliefs that I've come to adopt, and one is, I don't think you have to work out excessively. I don't think exercise is paramount in health. I believe it is a valuable asset, and as well as you want to do, it will benefit you for sure. But what it comes down to, just my belief is, you have to start with the nutrients that your body needs. And how you get those nutrients is very subjective, and what your state and your context is completely different than me and everybody else. And now, what's progressed you to this point of either disease or unhappiness? These are the questions that you have to ask yourself before you start to think you can change. And I don't want to oversimplify anything, because I don't understand everybody's situation, and there's very complex things at play, and this is not just trying to short think my way to a well-rounded answer. But why is very important. If you're overweight and you want to lose some weight, why? What weight is what are you after? If you want to feel better, get more energy, why? Why? Because you feel sluggish. That why question, you got to trace it back, go back. Then you can start to branch off. That why becomes physiologically why, mentally why, physically why. And how deep you go is up to you, but you have to sort of ask these honest questions and be honest with yourself when you want to, where you want to get to. And if you don't want to get there, then that's okay. That's great. I mean, put your faith into somebody else and listen to them. And if it's somebody you trust, by all means. But I do encourage finding out for yourself and trying things. I went from when you're unhealthy, when you don't feel great, it. You just know. And what do you have to do to change that is up to you. And, I believe the foundations are nutrition, sleep, and exercise to a certain degree, movement, and now you can go as far as you want to go down each of those. But when you're not willing to ask that question, how do you think your body's going to respond, or your brain or your mind or your soul is going to respond? You have to give it a chance, and you have to get dirty honest with yourself. And I can't do this for you. Can I help? Probably with some of the broader questions, but it has to start from you. And how do we find inspiration? That's another thing that's completely up to you. I, personal experience, tend to look for inspiration in outlying people where they have no reason except for personal conflict, or something hits them so hard that they have no choice but to follow up with this. For example, these are some of the people that I've looked to for advice, whether it's through books or social media or, just actual direct contact. Nina Teicholz, she was an investigative journalist, and she fell upon the whole fat cholesterol thing. And she's not a nutritionist, and now she's the head of the Nutrition Coalition of the United States, trying to change dietary guidelines just to acknowledge things, not to completely derail the system, but to say that, hey, we've missed out some things. Now that's fascinating to me. Dave Feldman, who is now head of the Citizen Science Foundation because he was a software engineer that went on a ketogenic diet and got into way better shape, felt better, lost a bunch of weight, but yet his LDL cholesterol was through the roof, and his scientific engineering background went, why do I feel so good? Why do I look so good? But they're telling me that I'm sick and gonna die. Now he is privately funding scientific research to research cholesterol because he now can't let it go in a good way. It's become his life because he fell on this, started asking questions, and now has become an outlier and an ambassador for finding out why we think LDL cholesterol is a problem. Not saying it isn't, just questioning why. And he was not happy with the way things were going throughout history. That is great. The same thing, sort of thing with Ivor Cummins, who I have followed through the pandemic because he's an outlier and a very rational thinker. He's from Ireland, and he's a biochemical engineer, a problem-solving engineer. This is what he does. He looks at numbers, he looks at math, he problem solves his way through a mechanistic engineering structure, and he puts that into nutrition. That way of thinking into nutrition. He puts that way of thinking, this whole pandemic, looking at every possible angle and coming up with something that, might not be right, but it's probabilities and math that I don't understand. I don't know how to do these p-values and n-values and stuff. All I know is that there's very intelligent people thinking this way. And it's kind of the way I feel about thought, is taking two sides, looking what probably is going to happen, what most likely will happen, what may happen, good, better, best scenarios, worst case scenario, best case scenario, what's most likely. That kind of logical thinking is what drives me to finding out what works for me. And nothing's off the table. It's not a question of, this sounds so stupid that it can't possibly work. Well, let's dissect it. Let's get into it. And it's led me through understanding metabolism, it's understanding liver function to a minimal level, and understanding scientific literature where epidemiology and randomized controlled trials, what that is. And I've found that you have to weed through a lot of noise. And you got to take that, yes, you want something to be real or right, but quite often the truth hurts a bit and it's not what you're exactly after. And don't stop there. Keep searching. Read books. I can tell you these things. Sleep matters. Not eating all the time matters. And that's very vague, I know, but that doesn't mean intermittent fasting, and that doesn't mean not eating ever and starving yourself. That just means there is a lot of places in science that say calorie restriction, fasting, keeping your blood sugar low, insulin sensitivity or insulin resistance, and these things all tie in together. If you cannot eat all the time, you're going to get some crosstalk there. And that's what this is all about. So find out for yourself. And that's all I'm going to say today, guys. I just want you to start questioning. And, if you have a question for me, by all means, ask me, send me a comment. If you want me to talk about something that if you value my opinion, I will. And just send me a message, send me an email, or leave a comment below. And, I'd love it if you like and subscribe to this channel. Please, if you can hit that thumbs up button. I don't know, it's going to help me in the long run. I am learning here. This is a little bit of my therapy, and I'm thanking you for being part of it. I want everybody to be the best them they can be, right? That's the idea. And there's lots of ways to do it, I'm sure. I can give you an in-depth, detailed way that I've come to feel a lot better, look a lot better. And, I'm going to get my blood work done pretty soon here, and I'm going to get a full blood panel, hormones, all of it. And I want to see how I'm doing, and we're going to go from there, get a baseline, and keep up to it, and I'll keep you guys updated with it. And that's it, guys. So I want you to stay strong and be free. All right. Take care.